Hello everybody, and just here and welcome back to Madoka Magica, episode 12, the finale. I'm afraid. I'm very afraid. Very, very, very afraid. All this time, I thought that it's all gonna be solved very well. It's gonna be a very good ending. Madoka makes a wish, fixes everything, all the issues. All the magical girls who are dead raise from the dead. There's no sadness, no grief. We're back to how it was, the usual ideal world. There's no need for magical girls to continue sacrificing themselves. If they want to be magical girls, then they don't lose souls. They can always break the contract, right? The ideal situation. But after seeing episode 11, after seeing how much weight was placed on Madoka's family and teacher and friends, and the effect that Sayaka's death had on everybody, that makes me fearful. That makes me afraid that perhaps they were driving that point home because Madoka is going to die. Yeah. In the previous episode, first and foremost, what happened? What happened is that Walpurgisnacht has started. Homura, of course, wanted to fight it alone, but alas, even with her unlimited RPG works, even with her mortars, C4, military, artillery, and everything else she had prepared, that wasn't enough. Not nearly, not even close. She suffered damage, and Madoka came ex machina to save her, to make a wish, to surrender her soul, and to save someone who Madoka doesn't even know, doesn't even realize is her friend, or has been her friend for this long. We also got a direct confirmation that Homura is a time traveler, that she's been going through the timelines with the sole explicit purpose of saving Madoka. And the new thing that we learned is that her attempts at saving Madoka only increased Madoka's powers, only caused karmic whatever to amass on Madoka, to converge at a single point in her, and with every single rewind, Madoka was becoming more and more and more and more powerful. And that's not good, because now she's powerful enough where when she becomes a witch, the world ends. And of course, that didn't sit well with Homura, because she can save Madoka, or she would like to save Madoka in this timeline, but if she's not able to, then does she let Madoka die? Or does she rewind and make Madoka more powerful? What's she gonna choose? What's she gonna do? Bit of a catch-22, isn't it? So that's certainly going to be interesting to see how it goes. I'm afraid. I'm gonna reiterate that I'm very afraid of. I'm very afraid for Madoka. Very afraid for Homura. As I said in a previous episode, uh, besides the way that I thought all this time it might end, where Madoka makes a wish and fixes everything and everybody lives happily ever after, now I see other possibilities. I see the possibility of Madoka saving the world, essentially, but nobody comes back from the dead. It's just Madoka and Homura, and they have to live with all the trauma that they suffered through. Another thing I can see is Madoka sacrificing herself, and perhaps by doing that, also removing magical girl powers and strengths and thus making Homura unable to rewind. That would be tragic, wouldn't it? Homura sacrificing so many years of her life to save Madoka only to not be able to, and only to not have another chance, not have another shot. I don't know if they're going for a hopeful end, if they're going for a bittersweet end, or are they going for just straight up bitterness? All of those possibilities are equally as plausible to me at this point, honestly. So I would be hard pressed to make any sort of predictions, to be perfectly honest with you. But all the scenes with Madoka's mother and teacher really raised the stakes and really made me doubt myself, really made me think that Madoka really might be in danger. I don't think I have anything more to say about the previous episode, about my predictions, so I'm gonna take a brief pause. I'm gonna close my window, close my door, because it's kind of cold right now, and we're gonna start from there. How about that? And I'm back. Had to take a little detour to brush my cat because she was dying to be brushed, but now I'm here. As I said, very afraid of this episode, very afraid for Madoka, for Homura, for everybody else. Hopeful for a good ending, but also doubtful. So, without further ado, here's your subs. You're gonna need them to follow along. Here's my sound. I'm gonna need it to hear things. And support the channel if you want monetarily. Patreon throne links in the description, or not. Share my content, spread the word. It's completely free and helps channel a lot. But if you do decide to support me, you can watch episodes of Madoka, the movies, Symphogear, and stuff like that a little bit early. And with that out of the way, we can start watching Madoka Magica, episode 12, the finale. In 3, 2, 1, go. Starting where we left off. What is that wish? True. That's a good question, actually. It's just a single timeline, though. Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it, Madoka. Yep. Okay. That's about the correct wish. Or rather, that's about the wish I thought she would make. Yep. Referring to him by his full name. That's serious. Opening? No, just a title card. Okay, where are we in the timeline? Is that Mami's place? It is Mami's place. Ah, she wants to take fighting witches entirely on herself? So it's going to end with Madoka's sacrifice, huh? Yeah, everybody's here. Sayaka? Yeah? She is becoming a god of magical girls, essentially. And here she is. Finally. Minute 4 into the final episode, we see Madoka transform into Meguka. Shooting the reality itself to dispel the witches everywhere and every when. Oh, she's just instant transmissioning? Yeah? Dispelling the witches and dispelling the magical girls. Oh. I did not expect her to just vanish. I thought it's gonna be like, oh, you're free of the curse, you can be a normal girl now, but no, they're all just being Thanos snapped out of existence. At least they seem happy about it, but is she collecting their souls or something? And intends to reincarnate them, or what exactly is going on, Madoka? Right, if every witch is a magical girl, then you go back in time and kill the magical girl, then the witch will never appear. Is that what we're going for here? Kind of Mami's idea with the murder-suicide from the flashbacks? It's the moon? Okay, you're in the lobby. You're waiting for the map to generate. Hmm. So she's remaking the universe to her wish, essentially. I love this kind of cosmic horror. Like a multi-dimensional thingamajigs. That's a big witch. Dispelled. Oh, that's a pretty dress. True. If there are no witches, then Madoka will have no reason to make that wish. Thus, she will go back to normal. Kind of a paradox, though. Kind of a paradox, isn't it? Is that kind of a monkey paw wish? Genie wish? Or is it actually Madoka's wish? So that's going to be the ending? Madoka becomes a deity and Homura just keeps on living? My very best friend. Title drop. Yes. That's a bit of a problem, isn't it? So a definition of a deity, really. You will remember me. Okay, that gives me a little bit of hope. Hello, Kioske. Sayaka and Madoka. Okay. I thought it's like the past and Madoka exists, but she's like talking to a Sayaka ghost or something along those lines. Hmm. And so Hitomi has been watching. So it's as if Sayaka never existed either? Or not? We're going back to one of the timelines now? Nobody recognizes that name? Yeah, nobody recognizes it. Besides Homura, because she holds onto the ribbons. And her brother. Oh, Homura is wearing her ribbon. Right. You could say that. Okay, so there are traces of Madoka lingering in the world. It's not like her existence has completely and utterly vanished. Yeah. Okay, so what's the point of magical girls and incubators now that witches don't exist? Hmm. Wraiths? Fuck is a wraith? Like witch's light, essentially? Right, wraiths that are born from, yeah, people's negative emotions and whatnot. Gotcha. But they aren't born of magical girls. Ooh, that's pretty. And she's fighting with a bow, like Madoka did. A flaming bow. That was certainly a finale. Hmm. Ah, that's the opening they're using for an ending. Hmm. Something after credits indeed. Don't forget, well, always somewhere someone is fighting for you as long as you remember that. Something, something. Yeah, now the wraiths are the enemies. And those are very witchy looking wings on Homura. Madoka? Hello there. Puella Madoka Magica. Hmm. I guess let's go through it again. Shall we? That was nothing like any ending I would have thought of, but at the same time, very much expected. Unexpected, but also expected. Or rather, completely unexpected, but in retrospect, expected. If that makes any sense. Also fairly open-ended. On one hand, very much closing, because witches no longer exist. Magical girls no longer turn into witches. On the other, very open-ended, because we have wraiths, and magical girls are still needed to fight wraiths, and entropy is still a problem, and incubators are still solving the problem of entropy. But now, in a more humane manner, I guess you could say. Now, when a magical girl's soul gem gets tainted, they don't turn into witches, they just die. And that's what was happening to all those magical girls that Madoka was visiting. On one hand, that's good, because they won't have to go uh, through the process of turning into a witch, right? On the other, kind of sucks because, I mean, they die. Dying sucks. Very ambivalent ending, to me, honestly. I'm generally speaking, it's just my personal bias, right? I'm not a huge fan of the sort of an ending where someone like sacrifices themselves to a life of endless torment or whatever, but at least their friends will be alive. Or, things of the sort. I'm usually not a fan of the approach of death is better than X, right? And there was plenty of that in this ending. So from my personal bias, I guess I just would have preferred a happier ending, but I'm not under any sort of an illusion that Madoka Magica is a particularly happy show. It's not. It's very tragic. There is that ray of hope, there is that ray of sunshine, but it's mostly just darkness and shadow. So, although personally I would have preferred a different kind of ending, I can't fault this ending for being what it is. It was good. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to dig at it. It was good, very much on brand. My personal preferences and personal biases aside, right? But yeah, let's go through it again, and let's talk about it in a little bit more depth, I guess. I believe it's because you've protected me for so long and placed so much hope on me. That I'm the person I am now. Kinda, sorta. I mean, you only had really a single timeline to grow into who you are, so I wouldn't say that, but I guess. I guess I've grown into the person I am now includes all the convergence of those karmic systems or whatever as well. It's the answer I finally found. Yeah, to stop magical girls from ever suffering. I will erase every single witch in every universe, past, future, all the universes, all the timelines, everywhere. Now that, with my own hands, I think that was a bit of a monkey paw, but on Madoka's part, right? If she didn't say that, if she just said, I wish to erase witches, she probably wouldn't have to become a deity that takes care of those witches. They would just poof out of existence and she would be able to live normal life, or a life as a magical girl who fights wraiths. Well, because she added with my own hands, well, what happened happened. Do you truly intend to become a god? Yeah? Also, I love how, for the first time, we see Kyuubey's eyes wriggling around and any sort of movement. Usually, when you see this shot, throughout the series, when you see a shot of Kyuubey's eyes, it's perfectly stationary. Nothing moves. It's just an unmoving, still facade. His eyes are moving. There is perhaps a hint of emotion in that. Some sort of awe, maybe, right? Yeah, I don't care what you call it. That's a great delivery on that line, by the way. Just completely offhanded. I don't care what you call it. Not like overplayed. I don't care what you call it. Just I don't care what you call it. I like it. I really like the delivery of this particular line. Yeah, all those magical girls. I don't want to see them cry. Now, granted, incubator. Using full name, you know she's getting real. And she has a chance to meet up with Mami and Kyoko. Is it afterlife? Is it alternate timeline? Are Mami and Kyoko and Sayaka and everybody else in the same place Madoka is in? Or what exactly is going on here? I don't know. But I don't think we're supposed to care about the technicalities of it. Madoka is meeting up with Mami, and we learn that, yeah, she will, for all eternity, she will cease to be an individual. She will only exist as a concept, as a deity that destroys witches. And nobody would even know, because if she destroys witches, then there are no witches, then there is nobody to know. There are no witches to be destroyed. So nobody knows that there is someone that destroys witches. A guardian deity that people have no idea about, essentially. Death would be a kinder fate. Indeed. Indeed it would. A principle that destroys witches. The resolve. That's what I intend to do. Yeah, I know, I realize that, and that doesn't change things. If you think you can do it, you've just gotta do it. All that's left is to run full steam ahead. That's very much like Kyoko. You're becoming hope itself, indeed. And for the first time we see Madoka's henshin. With a flaming bow, a rose branch that turns into a bow, a set of flame, and a single shot kills all the witches everywhere, everywhen. See, I was kinda misunderstanding, I guess, or mishoping those scenes. That, oh, she's realized that her gem is tainted, so she's gonna be a witch now, and she's afraid of dying. But here comes Madoka, right? Here comes Madoka and acts as a living grief seed, essentially, and pulls out the taint of her soul gem. And yeah, you're free now. Or maybe she burns out her soul gem. You're a normal girl now. You no longer have the burden of being a magical girl. Oh, I'm so happy I don't have to fight witches anymore. I can enjoy the sunlight. I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. And she just gets Thanos snapped. Yeah. I was hoping, against all hope, for a bit more hopeful, I guess, bit more happier of an ending than instead of turning into a monster, you die. Like, sure, it's an improvement, but I would have preferred, instead of turning into a monster, you don't. And you also don't die. That would have been preferable, but I guess, again, I'm kinda over hoping here, if you can call it that. Another one, somewhere in like Amazon jungle or wherever. Saved by Madoka? Well, saved. Her gem broken and shattered, and her smiling but dying. And all those magical girls, all across times, all across space, being purified and killed. None of you have to hate anyone or curse anyone. Yeah, they're dead. Again, I get that death is preferable to being turned into a witch, but as I said, my personal preference, my personal bias, I'm not a huge fan of it. I look at it as forced hopefulness, forced happiness, kind of a forced happy ending, right? Like, oh, you broke your leg, but at least you have a leg, right? That kind of a deal. I'm not a huge fan of this kind of thinking. But again, I recognize that in context of the show, it is what it is. Would I have preferred a happier ending? Sure. Am I fine with the ending we got? Sure. Honestly, perfectly fine with that. Well, Purgisnacht is defeated, although it feels insignificant at this point, doesn't it? You don't have to hate anyone anymore. I'll go back before you took that form and shoulder that burden for you. Yeah, I'll go back to when you were still a magical girl and I will kill you. Essentially. And we're on the moon. We're in the lobby, waiting while Madoka generates a new map. The universe is realigning itself in accordance with the new laws Madoka has brought forth. Also, Kyuubey being here also implies that Kyuubey is that transdimensional, not even transdimensional, like past dimensional creature being that also isn't bound by the laws of the universe. That also can just hang around in the lobby. You are also a user of temporal magic. Indeed. Let us witness together the universe that Madoka wants to create. She was able to bring forth enough hope to give birth to an entire universe, so she remade the world according to her wishes? I don't know. I'm also not entirely getting this. Like, this is Madoka's soul gem, from what Kyuubey says. It's hurtling at the world, at the earth, and turns into a witch. Is this Madoka as a witch? Is this the timeline where Madoka becomes a witch? But then comes Madoka the deity and erases that witch. Takes up this beautiful, gorgeous form. And golden eyes. This is interesting. Is there any particular moment it changes? When she opens her eyes. When she reopens them. Come on. Show me your eyes. Pink. Golden. I wonder what the significance of it is. If any. Homura has golden eyes, I guess. Maybe. Kinda, sorta. I wonder if it's something that's gonna be significant in the movies. Maybe. Because the movies are a sequel, if I'm not mistaken. And there are things left to make a sequel on. Will Madoka make an appearance in the sequel, in the movies? Probably. Still using the bow, still using this pattern, and killing the world-ending witch. Your life no longer has a beginning or an end. You exist at all times and at all spaces at the same time. You're a god, you're a deity. People in my Discord server always post gifs saying praise Nana, Nana be praised, or whatever it says. Because Die Banana from Review Starlight, right? But they really should be praising Madoka as their god and savior. Your existence has shifted onto a higher plane and you remain only as a concept. God, I love it. I love transdimensional bullshittery. I just love it. When there is beings that break through the borders between universes. When there are worlds that exist on parallel planes of existence. When there are... I read a book... can't remember the title, but it had like various concepts of possible alien life, and one of those concepts was I think it was called tachyon beings or something like that, a hypothetical particle of a tachyon that moves in time but in the opposite direction. So when like tachyon aliens would land, you would first witness them standing in front of you, then you would see them exiting the ship, then you would see them landing, and then you would see them in the sky. Like, reverse time. I love this kind of mind-bending, mind-boggling, mind-shattering bullshittery. And this is doing it for me. A transdimensional concept of a deity. Please, more. You think this is a fair reward for everything she's done? Well, that's what she wished for. It wasn't up to Kyuubey to do something for her. It's what Madoka wanted. This is worse than dying. I agree, personally. But yeah, Madoka is everywhere and everywhen at the same time. And she finally realizes what Homura went through. And honestly, going through this sequence, those scenes, I was kind of started some... my ears started, my ears. What? My eyes started, itching a little. Yeah. Yeah, it's really such a beautiful emotional scene. The raw emotion in Homura. You're my very best friend. Will you really be trapped here alone for all eternity? Yeah, I will be, but not alone, because I'm everywhere and everywhen. So everyone will always be with me. True. You follow me all the way out here after all. That's some dedication, right? That's some, like, tie to follow a character through their ascent into godhood all the way to a space between dimensions. Even after you've gone back, you might remember something, especially with those ribbons. Again, another thing that I'm not personally a fan of, the whole thing of, oh yeah, I might be dead, but I will be always with you, my spirit will be always with you. Uh, Again, I see it as I broke a leg, but at least I have a leg. But in this context, it actually makes sense. It actually does, because Madoka isn't just dead, and it's just a bit of, like, uh, trying to cope with her death and telling ourselves that, oh yeah, her spirit will always be with us. No, she actually exists everywhere and everywhen, so she actually is always with us. Always with Homura and with the others. Actually makes sense. I'll be able to see you again someday. I wonder if it's a foreshadowing for the movies. Goodbye to you until then. Again, that's another thing that usually is that, I broke a leg, but at least I have a leg kind of deal, where an empty promise essentially that, yeah, I'm dying, right? I will no longer be in this world, but oh, one day we'll surely see each other, right? So don't despair, even though we know that it's not true. But in this case, it might actually come true. Kyosuke's performance, and Madoka meeting Sayaka. The only way I could save you would be to make it like none of this had happened. Which means that this future would have to disappear as well. But I get the feeling that you didn't really want it to turn out like that. Yeah, I honestly would have said just fuck Sayaka's feelings, I want to re-roll it back to how it was. Right? Just go back in time and make it so that the witches don't exist. Make it so that the witches never existed from, like, the Neolithic. But then we would all still be living in caves, wouldn't we? So I guess I would just say, just revert back to the start of the timeline, back to when, like, Homura arrived here, when all my friends were alive, and then eliminate all witches. That would be cool, that would be fine. As it is now, then even in this post-ascension world, Sayaka is dead, Kyoko is dead, Mami is dead. Only Homura remains. Truly value your wish and all the hard work you put into it. Her wish was to get into Kyosuke's pants, essentially, from what we know. Now she realizes that her wish was really just to hear him play one more time, but I'm a little bit iffy on this interaction with Sayaka, honestly. I wanted more and more people to be able to experience it. And yeah, that's the future, and he's a great violinist, and people are coming here to listen to him play, and everybody's happy. Except, well, Sayaka and Madoka and everybody else. Wait. Something doesn't add up. Yeah, okay. That was Sayaka. So Sayaka turned into a witch. And no, she didn't turn into a witch. She used up her soul gem and just was vaporized, because witches no longer exist. Magical girls no longer turn into witches. Way of the cycle. Yeah. Used up all of her power in that last attack, and that vaporized her. So the scene we saw with Madoka and Sayaka happened after this. There's some anachronicity. I don't know, asynchronous storytelling. Just when we'd finally become friends. I'm glad they at least were able to become friends, if only for a moment. But at least Kyoko can be friends with Mami and Homura now. And Homura has the ribbons, so this is post-Ascension world. So Mami and Kyoko are alive. Yeah. Hmm. So Mami, Kyoko, and Homura are alive. At least Sayaka isn't, and Madoka is a god. That's the current reality. And Madoka's brother can remember something about Madoka. That's on one hand happy, but on the other it's heartbreaking. Like, he probably doesn't realize that he had a sister in a different timeline. But he does have a recollection of her. Very heart-wrenching, ambivalent feeling. Homura is wearing Madoka's ribbon. And she's this invisible friend he plays with when he's alone. This is interesting that Madoka didn't completely vanish from existence. Because I was fine with, or rather, I'm fine with how it is now. But I thought that, okay, it makes sense. Homura can remember her because she accompanied her to godhood and she got the ribbons as well. So it makes sense that Homura would remember her, but now there's also her brother that has a vague recollection. Her mother also says that, oh yeah, the name sounds really familiar. So, yeah, it makes me hopeful. Maybe again, completely for naught. It's perfectly possible that my hope will be dashed. That perhaps in the movies, Madoka will return. Somehow. Hmm. Is it possible to just erase witches, the very existence, the very concept of witches, instead of having to go and prevent witches from being born? Because that's what's happening right now, right? What they think happens is that the soldier becomes tainted and then just poofs out of existence, and the magical girl poofs out of existence with it. That's just what happens when the soul gem gets filled. But in reality, Madoka appears and destroys the gem right before the magical girl is about to turn into a witch. I think that's how it looks. And now we have the current reality. Uh, yeah, I was confused what's going on here, but those are like black cubes, kind of like light versions of grief seeds, and the wraiths are light versions of witches, essentially. So you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 hours to a day. It's a clock. It's a fucking clock. Again, it's a face of a clock. But you need multiple of them to purify your soul gem because they're weaker, because the wraiths themselves are weaker. Theoretically, the system you described could have worked, the system with witches and creating them using magical girls. We have no way of proving it, yeah. It is true that even we can't explain why Why soul gems simply disappear when they can no longer be purified? Because of Madoka. Because Madoka destroys them. She's omnipresent and just appears, snaps the gem, and that's what happens. I didn't make the connection initially. Now I understand it. And yeah, if such a convenient means had been available to us, we might have gone this route. Haha, ha, thankfully it's not the case now, right? Thankfully, we don't have to exploit you humans. We can just, like, help you. Because I'm assuming that's how they're working right now. Gathering despair, not emotions, not hope or whatever, gathering despair itself. Or was that what they were doing? Because yeah, Kyuubey eats grief seed filled with... Yeah, they were eating despair, essentially. Now prey on people from the shadows. Yeah, I'm assuming. We weren't exactly on the greatest term with you. Yeah. Okay, so the current system in the post-ascension world is wraiths appear in the world because they do. Because people's negative emotions give birth to them, because maybe some tragedy, when it happens on the side of a tragedy, a wraith is born. For example, right? That's what happens. And magical girls fight those wraiths. And now the relationship between humans and incubators is truly symbiotic. Incubators give humans the power to fight those wraiths. In exchange, humans, when they kill wraiths, they get those black cubes and they give them to incubators. That's a much better deal. It's a much better situation. There's no exploitation going on. Zero. At least from what we can see. I really don't get human values at all. Yeah, utilitarian race to a fault. Just because witches are no longer born into this world doesn't mean the curses harbored by mankind have ceased to exist. Yeah, negative emotions, tragedies, curses. The distortions of the world have merely changed form. Now prey on the people from the shadows. So, quality versus quantity. Instead of big, huge witches killing 100 people at once, now we have smaller wraiths who attach themselves to like a single person and drive them to suicide or something along those lines. That's my assumption. There's some miasma. And we're off to fight. Maybe nothing but a cycle of sadness and hatred. Even so, this was a place that she wanted to protect. So I will protect it as well. And she has a bow. She finally has a weapon. Interesting. That it's a bow, just like what Madoka was using. And it even has a flame at the top. It's not a rose branch, but it's a bow. I wonder, is it because she has Madoka's ribbons? Or is it because there's, like, some of Madoka inside of her, essentially? A fragment of Madoka lives inside of her heart and allows her to use the bow? Maybe. But that's not the end. A lot of raids. Homura going alone against them in some desert. This is freaky. This is creepy. We saw Homura sprout wings before, right? When she jumped down from the building. But those were radiant, feathery, purple wings made of light. Those are the wings of a witch. The style of them is unmistakably witch. This like mixed media effect on them. right? Like cutouts from old magazines and whatnot, and photos, everything mixed together. Paintings, drawings. Why? It's a desert. You can see like the rock formations eroded from sand being blown by them. Madoka is with her. Roses, roses, roses. Or are they not roses? Are they some different flower that has a different meaning? In any case, it's the same flower that was on Madoka's bow. That's a fucked up looking cat. Why the symbolism of witches, though? And some weird threads? She's not using a bow to fight those wraiths. She's encompassing the world, the whole location, into the world of witches, essentially. What the fuck was that about? Oh, Sumami, Homura, Madoka, Sayaka, Kyoko at the end standing beside one another. And I thought here they are repeated, but no, those are different characters. Silhouettes we haven't seen yet. Puella, Magi, Madoka Magica, in. I wonder if those silhouettes are like characters from the movie, characters from the spin-off, from the mobile game. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly thought I'm gonna spend more time talking about this finale, but apparently it didn't need that much. Because all in all, it was fairly straightforward, wasn't it? The status quo has changed. Some people are alive again or have never died. Some people remain dead. Witches are no longer a thing. We have wraiths now. Madoka's sacrifice certainly wasn't in vain, but the way destroying the witches goes, it's kind of bittersweet, isn't it? It's not that the existence of witches was completely wiped out, and thus magical girls are no longer necessary. It's just that magical girls no longer turn into witches when they die. Instead, they just die. Very bittersweet. Very bittersweet ending finale in the first place. Depending on your personal preferences, it will be either a very it will vary. Some people will like this ending, I have no doubt. If you're a person who's very who likes watching, I don't know, fucking Your Lie in April and similar anime to that, and very much likes dramas and tragedies and whatnot, you will enjoy it very much. And bittersweet endings, bittersweetness in the first place, you will very much enjoy that. If you're someone who skews more towards not being a fan of tragedies and preferring hopeful endings, preferring maybe comedies even, light-hearted shows, then I can very much see people like that just not liking this ending. I don't know what the reception of this ending was originally, but I can see it being divisive, honestly. To me, I'm usually not a fan of tragedies. I would much rather watch some seasonal isekai trash than a romance drama where both people die in the end, as seems to be commonplace nowadays. There's really plenty of like Your Lie in April kind of shows in the recent seasons. I really don't like them, honestly. I watch. I'll be honest. I watch anime because I want to be entertained. I want to have a jolly good old laugh. I want to. I want some escapism from the toils of regular life, right? I want that from my entertainment. If I wanted to cry about something, I could just lie in bed and think of my life, right? I don't need an anime to be crying. So I'm usually not a fan of that. But despite that, this works for me. It works. It works because, one, there's that interdimensional tomfuckery angle to that, which I am a sucker for. Two, there's that hopefulness to it because it's not that Madoka completely disappeared and nobody remembers her. She still, slivers of her still exist, right? So it's more hopeful than the usual ending of person just disappears and that's it. Like, I know the ending of uh nothing comes to mind right now, but you know the kinds. So I'm fine with that. I'm also fine with that because it's not just a cheap tearjerker kind of an ending. Very often, uh, I don't know if very often, but I watched quite a few tragedy, drama, romance kind of shows. I watched Clanad first season and a bit of the second one. I couldn't stomach the rest of the second one. But many of those are, to me at least, very cheap tearjerkers, right? Either right from the very onset we start with, oh, one of the people is terminally ill, so of course it's gonna end in tragedy, or we're going for some completely outlandish things that are purely supposed to make the viewer cry. They don't have any more substance to them. Just you cry now. In this case, there's much more depth, many more layers to what happened. It's not just a cheap tearjerker, it's an actual consequence of the rest of the season, and an actual follow up, and an actual finale, and an actual solution that we've been looking for since episode 1. It works. Despite being a tragic and bittersweet ending, which I'm not even gonna say that I'm not a fan of, I just straight up don't like. I'm gonna admit that. I just straight up don't like it. Madoka Magica ending works for me. I like it. I really, truly did enjoy this ending. The conversation with Sayaka and the whole thing of, oh, I could have gone back in time, but I know you wouldn't want me to, so stay dead, I guess, if you wanna. That didn't sit well with me. That really didn't. But that was like the only thing. The rest, thumbs up. Honestly, I did very much enjoy it. Despite not being a fan of the same thing that is shown in other shows, perhaps. Also, the thing that there is a sequel movie, that there is a spin off, makes me hopeful for some more hope. That it's not just one ending of everybody died, although that's not the ending of Madoka, but there is some room to see something more hopeful, maybe Madoka's return, maybe, something else completely. But we've set up a new world in which new adventures can take place, essentially, right? Fighting wraiths now. Perhaps in a more classic Mahou Shoujo manner, perhaps not, probably not. You would be stupid to waste the Madoka Magica franchise on just turning it into a generic Mahou Shoujo show. So I have no doubt that whatever the movie is, whatever the spin-off is, they aren't that. Okay. Uh, huh. Oh, I still have some tea. Good, good. That was about the episode. About the season as a whole. I really don't have much criticism, honestly. The only criticism I might have regarding stories and characters has to do wholly and entirely with my personal preferences and personal biases. With my personal preference of preferring happier shows. Simple as that, really. So that's pretty much the only thing. The other thing I'm a little bit torn on is the pacing. At no point did it feel bad. At no point did the pacing feel too slow or too fast. And yet, I have a feeling that they could have used just a couple more episodes, perhaps. But then again, if they did have more episodes, it would be a different show, wouldn't it? It wouldn't have this much depth, this much hidden meaning, perhaps. Or perhaps it would be just as dense, we would simply see more of it. Impossible to tell. I had something in mind. Uh, yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember. The change. Two things in particular that come to mind when it comes to pacing. Kyoko's sacrifice for Sayaka felt kind of out of nowhere. And now, after people pointed out in the comments that the parallels between Sayaka and Kyoko, how Kyoko wanted to prevent Sayaka from making the same mistakes, and she found herself in Sayaka essentially. I see that, but the show didn't have the time to fully like work out their relationship essentially. So that's one thing where the pacing got a little bit iffy and they could have used a little bit more time. And Madoka's, although I want to say Madoka's decision to sacrifice herself also kind of sort of came out of nowhere, but in retrospect it didn't. It's just that it wasn't preceded with half an episode of thinking about it. It was preceded with tiny little specks and moments throughout the season, right? It wasn't the moment where throughout the episode something wells up inside of Madoka and eventually she makes the decision to achieve godhood, to sacrifice herself. It's been welling up inside of her throughout the season. Also, interestingly, although okay, I'm gonna say it. I'm not gonna dwell on it. I'm just gonna say what I wanna say. It very much feels like at times Madoka Magica is a show about Homura, perhaps more so than about Madoka even, especially with episode 10. And it will continue to be a show about Homura should we continue from this point on. Because Madoka is a protective deity, Homura is now taking care of the raves now. Hmm. So some of the growth that Madoka went through was very internal. It wasn't shown on screen. It wasn't told explicitly. So yeah, that's why Madoka making the decision to sacrifice herself might have felt a little iffy to me. That she was immediately like, not even any sliver of hesitation. Yeah, I want to give up my life for the protection of magical girls. When you look at it in retrospect, when she went through Mami dying, when she went through Sayaka and Kyoko and Homura, and she realized that there are, and she saw the visions that Kyuubey shown her of all those other magical girls, I think that might have been the breaking point, actually. Yeah, again, in retrospect, it makes sense. It does make sense. Madoka Magica, in general, uh, like, there are many shows where I'm willing to say that they get better or you can understand them easier on your second watch or third watch or whatever. But Madoka Magica truly is one of those shows that you can't just watch and take everything out of it. You have to watch it again and again and again, and you have to spend some time ruminating on what you just saw. Perhaps you should watch it and pause after every scene and think of what just happened. It's not a show that you can just watch and then hope that on the next day you're gonna get some ideas about it. You have to actively think of it. You have to actively think about it. Again, the incredible denseness comes in, where they show so many things that they barely have the time to sink in. I wonder what the series would have been if it had like 24 episodes. Would it be better? Would it be worse? I don't know. Impossible to tell. Could go either way, honestly. It's great as it is. I'm gonna leave it at that. It's great as it is. Uh, what else? Now, maybe about technicalities. I love the music, especially the ending. It's going to stay with me. Honestly, I adored the ending of Madoka Magica. The rest of the music, very haunting, very just fitting everything. There wasn't a single piece of music that wouldn't fit the scene, and there wasn't a single scene that had music where it didn't need it, or that didn't have music where it needed it. The use of music was great. From the visual standpoint, uh, again, a bit of an ambivalent feeling. On one hand, this show can be beautiful with its use of mixed media, with its use of color and the significance of color, with its use of very peculiar art style, honestly. It immediately creates the sense of otherness and the sense of uneasiness, particularly the world of the witches. So, actually, the particularity of the art style with the like thick lines that are supposed to be shadows, with the thatched over eyes, with the wide faces, I think that's what makes it work so well with the mixed media world of the witches. If Madoka Magica looked like your everyday book standard regular anime, it wouldn't have this effect. Or rather, it would be much more, the separation, the division would be much more visible. That this is the real world and this is the world of witches. Visible to the point of being jarring, even. But the fact that colors are so pastel, that the art style is so unusual, that the characters look sketched on like by hand on a piece of paper, does make it work with the world of witches that also often consists of sketches on pieces of paper. Initially, I wasn't sold on this art style, but now I am. I am entirely and wholly sold on it. Now, there were a few mistakes here and there. Even in this very episode, I didn't want to pull much attention to that, but in one scene, Homura was missing the blood on her face, for example. From what I heard on release, it was even worse. And I heard that when the. Was it the movie that released? Or was it the spin off? Something of Madoka that released, there was a big uproar because it just looked like shit, from what I heard. But then the Blu-ray release got much better, And this, what I was watching, was also a Blu-ray release. So if that was better, then hey, that's great. But I have to wonder just how did it look when it wasn't remastered on Blu-ray. Hmm. All in all, visually striking at times, visually interesting at all times. Thumbs up for that. Um, Voice actors. Uh, Aoi Yuki. I mean, what else needs to be said? Aoi Yuki nails whatever role she's given. Honestly, I have no doubts in Aoi Yuki. If I ever see a sultry MILF character in some anime voiced by Aoi Yuki, I will not have a shred of a doubt that she's gonna nail that role. If I ever see a man voiced by Aoi Yuki, I'm gonna be like, hell yeah, I wanna hear that performance because she's gonna nail it. So that's all I have to say about Madoka's performance, I guess. In general, some great performances from Homura's voice actress, from Madoka's voice actress, Aoyuki, from everybody else. Whenever you see, hear, witness crying and sobbing, it's so visceral. It's so from the heart. It's hard to. Not even hard. It's impossible to see that as a voice actor screaming into the mic. You see the character sobbing, you see their heart being broken. You don't think about the performance. It merges with the character. No, it is the character on the screen going through incredible turmoil right now. There wasn't a single bit of performance that I wouldn't be sold on. I also love how many characters had this fairly nasally tinge to them. Madoka's mother, for example, Mami, just like the art style was peculiar, the voice actors were as well. Not in a negative way, by no means, absolutely. I loved what the voices added to it. Does anything else need to be said? Do I need to talk about anything else? We talked about the stories, the characters. I guess not necessarily, so we can talk about it a little bit. The story, not as hopeful, not as bright as I would have hoped for it to be, as I would have wanted for it to be, but I'm fine with that. As I mentioned before, I'm not a fan of tragic stories, but this story works for me. Characters, I wish we had more time to spend with them. I wish we had more time to develop their relationships, because the two characters that really get development throughout the series, like good and proper in your face almost development, are of course Madoka, Homura, Sayaka. Although in case of Sayaka it's more of a spiral down than development, but I guess that's also kind of a development. But I wish we had more time with Kyoko. I wish we had more time with Mami. I wish we had more time to develop those relationships, because Mami's death and Kyoko's death felt just a little bit flat. Maybe not even flat, but they could have used a little bit more time for the audience to be more familiarized with them and to grow to like them more. That's what I'm gonna say about characters. But besides that, everybody was great. It's all just a matter of time, honestly, that yeah, it's all just a matter of time. If we had a little bit more time with those characters, it would have been even better, but it wasn't bad by no means. I guess that's how I can sum it up. Yeah, I think that's it. Whatever else I'm gonna say, I'm gonna be spinning in circles. I want to talk more about this finale. I want to talk more about this series, but I'm not gonna be just talking about things I already talked about. If I have any further thoughts about it, I'm gonna voice them when I record whatever comes next. Whether it be the spin-off or the movie, I'm gonna ask people on my server. I'm gonna ask you guys in the comments what comes next. I'm gonna be watching that. If I have any more thoughts about the main series, that's where I'm gonna voice them. I can't wait to see where they're going to go with the spin-off and where they're going to go with the sequel. Don't spoil it to me. Absolutely not. Please, I beg of you. I'm curious. Are we going to continue from post-Ascension world, where the spin-off is a completely new group of characters who are hunting the wraiths? Is it going to be a spin-off before the Madoka and Homura days? Is it going to be a spin-off from a different part of the world during the whole conundrum that was going on with Madoka and Homura? There was also another group of magical girls who were hunting witches in, I don't know, Osaka or something. I don't know. The sequel? I don't know. I don't know what to expect. Madoka's return, but besides that, no thoughts head empty. Genuinely, honestly. The magic of this ending, of this finale, is that it both ended in a way where you would be fine without any sequels, any spin-offs, anything, but at the same time left enough of a world that can still house more stories in it. Yeah, again, I want to sit here more and I want to talk more, but I'm gonna be spinning in circles, so I'm gonna have to force myself to stop here, even though it's an hour and a half and I would like to talk for at least 2 hours. But yeah, stop. Cease. That's enough. You guys, you tell me in the comments down below, what did you think of this episode, of my reaction, my theories for the future? No spoilers, please. I beg of you. Fuck. Jesus. I almost forgot. This. Theories. I was prepared to do the outro. But we can't. We can't. Where is it? Ruby Overlord Hatarakumao Sama Meduka Meguka. Let's go. Sayaka has a sick relative, wishes to heal them. No on the relative part. Yes on the wishes to heal them. Madoka wishes to revive Mami or time travel. How wrong I was. Neither. Breach of contract rolls back the wish. Nobody breaches the contract. The contract cannot be breached. Madoka can bring about some calamity due to her innate power. She can end the world, essentially. That's true. Fourth will break Homura's powers. Those aren't fourth wall breaking powers, those are temporal magic. Homura controls space-time. Homura controls yes on time, no on space. Sayaka changes, not in a good way. Her friendship with Madoka gets strained. Very much so. Kyosuke going out with another girl, not Sayaka. Yes. Kyoko fights Sayaka, Madoka becomes Meguka to save her. No. Or, well, Kyoko did fight with Sayaka. Originally, Madoka became Meguka, died, and Homura became Meguka to rewind time. That was true. Everybody dies, Madoka fixes everything. Madoka fixes everything. Tentatively in green. Everybody dies. Sure. Okay. Not bad. Plenty of green. Almost forgot about that. Good thing I didn't, huh? Okay, now, with those theories checked, we can end it right here, right now. So, you guys, let me know in the comments down below what did you think of this episode, my reaction, my theories. Anything else you want to tell me in the comments, as long as it's not spoilers, tell me in the comments down below. If you do want to talk spoilers about the movies, about the spin-offs, if you do want to tell me what to watch next, Discord here in the description down below. There is Madoka Magica channel. You can join it, use spoiler tags to talk spoilers, or not use spoiler tags and talk about non-spoilers. That's also fine. If you what? Like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, but tell me why so I can improve. Subscribe to the channel to be notified of future releases of not only Madoka Magica, the movies and the spin-offs, but also Symphogear Access, also Tensei Shitaraken Deshita, Novice Alchemist, and Gundam Witch from Mercury, and I also stream sometimes, and I also release other videos. Arifureta OVAs are gonna be releasing sometime soonish, or maybe they already released, I don't know. Yeah, subscribe to the channel to do that and click the bell to be notified. If you want to support the channel, you can do that monetarily, Patreon or Throne, links in the description. On Patreon for $10 a month you get early access to Madoka, to Symphogear, to other non-seasonal shows, and for just a single dollar a month you get a role on the Discord, and you also get a place in the credits. And on Throne you can pitch in directly towards my purchase of better lighting, better camera, stuff like that. If you want to support the channel but don't want to spend any money, sharing my content, spreading the word, it really does help a lot. So you can help me that way. And also commenting, liking, subscribing, all that jazz tells YouTube that my channel is worthy and that it should be recommended to other people. And with that out of the way, that's gonna be it from me for today, even though I wanna keep talking. So yeah, I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Do all the good stuff. Do all the good stuff. I'm gonna see you guys in the next one, and whatever it might be. And cheers. That's it. Soul She Wrote. I said, that's it. And this is the credits. You can be one of those people, and you don't even need to be a magical girl to fulfill that wish.